just to give you a little heads up, this is not like our typical meetings. One, it's not a joint SBC school committee meeting. This is a school building committee where, as I said a couple weeks ago, we're just really trying to give everybody an update as to all the work that's being done. And I'm pretty excited about, what we can share, what Chris is going to show you. It's nice that I'm not sitting on 128 in 46-degree weather with the rain falling down on me. I'm sitting at my house. So this is a new format for us. I think, Bob is going to be kind of running the background in terms of who can talk and this and that, so that we don't have, this is a public meeting. If someone, has the ability to share their screen, we want to make sure that the right people can share their screens. So I think you can raise hands, you can interrupt us at any point, wave, like whatever we need to do. But we are trying to just give an update. So with that, I think, Eric, I'll turn it over to you.
Well,
And then I
Terry and
have a
Eric, can I
feeling
just
you're gonna
interrupt
turn
for
it
a
back to me.
second?
Yeah,
Not sure if you got Neil, Nicole, and Tom Regan
got it.
also in the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Bob, if you want to just share the presentation, that'd be great.
Got it. All right,
Just go to the next slide. So, Eric, I think typically when a call to order, you mention a bunch of things. I don't know if you have those prepared statements.
I do not, but I can get them. Hang on.
Generally, it is, I mean, this is not in person, so we don't have to say that if the WebEx gets stopped, we stop the meeting.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we're fine.
Yep.
So I think you can actually move to two. I don't know if we have members of the public on. If so, please raise your hand and we can listen to any comments related to what you're looking to express.
I think we need to call the meeting to order if it's an
Yep.
open public meeting.
Hang on, you're all great. Just give me 1 second, please. We have someone trying to get in. Hang on, just sent email. Mimi is
Do you
trying
want
to.
me to do it?
Melissa, that would be wonderful. Mimi's trying to get access, so if you see her pop up. So.
All right, I'm happy to call the meeting to order.
Thank you, Melissa.
Burlington High School Building Committee for May 22nd. Do we have any public on the line that wishes to speak? I don't see any hands, so we can move on to the schematic design update from Taipei.
While they're getting that open, Dr. Conti, if you do let Mimi know the link on the agenda works, the one that came in the email didn't work for me either.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. Could you repeat that for me? I was trying to text at the same time.
Yeah, the link in the agenda off the Burlington Agenda Center works. The one that got emailed to me didn't work. So if she taps on the one that's posted on Burlington Agenda Center, it should get her into the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
Chris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I was waiting for that. Okay, so on the well, I don't know what's happening.
Sorry, that's me. I was scrolling instead of tapping. Sorry, my bad.
No worries. All right.
Like the first time we've done a virtual meeting.
Okay. On the plan in front of you is the site plan that we're currently tracking for the school. It shows the current layout of the building, so you can see that we've been continuing to make progress on the form of the building, the shape, and now layering into that how the site responds. So on this diagram, you're going to notice that the more tan spots on the building, the tan locations, are the new building, and then the white portions are the existing building to remain to be renovated. And that is true for both the high school portion, which is more on the left-hand side of the road that has a 4 in it, and the admin building, which is on the right-hand side of that same road. So this is how the site plan lays out. We've just reviewed this site plan this week with the site working group and made some good progress. There's a few things we're catching up with on that. But for all intents and purposes, this is heading in the right direction for the site plan and the building as currently considered. You can go to the next slide. So just to update everybody on the plan here, the first floor is shown here in on the screen, and you can see this sort of grayed out or light tone, halftone site plan underneath it, and the area in red, bound in red, heavy red line, is the existing building to remain, which will be renovated. And the other areas are the new building that will be the new construction. So we've gone through a series of programming meetings with the school committees, not committees, teachers, the staff, and all the department heads and everything. And so we are scheduling the same 4 sessions for students, I think, in a week or 2 from now. But the plan that you see on the screen right now has been revised and based on those meetings. And so we're getting closer to the result. But again, with schematic design comes a lot of pushing and nudging and everything like that. So this is the actual entry floor. There's a floor lower that contains all the gyms, and we'll come to that plan in just a couple minutes. But for all intents and purposes, the high school functions on 3 floors, and this is the entry level of that. The site does have some gradient to it, which allows us to get that 4th lower level down where the gyms are. But so you can see the auditorium in the middle, that's existing, that will be renovated, but all the components around it that are there. So classroom wing on the upper right, and then the arts wing, which is on the lower right, and then admin. And one thing we did get to with the admin in the not working groups, the departmental meetings, was to distribute admin a little bit more broadly across all the floors. So you'll see a little red area on every single floor. Bob, you can go to the next slide. So these are the upper 2 floors. They stack, perfectly straight up. The second floor is noted there in the plan. It's the sort of lower left, and that has more classrooms on it. Some SPED media center that's open to below as well. There's a media center on the first floor. And then up in the top right corner is the 3rd floor plan, and that's mostly a science floor. And the reason is because there's a lot of science rooms as part of the curriculum for Burlington High School. And the way it kind of shakes out is that we get more science up on that floor because they all need to be together. So that was one of the big sort of tweaks the last couple of weeks, is that working with the departmental structure of the high school and talking to staff and everything, we made sure that science in particular were all located on the same floor to be departmentally based. You can still run the school departmentally with all the classrooms, and those are distributed throughout. Or over time, if another model emerges, you can do that with all of the general classrooms, but science will always need to be on the upper floor just because of the nature of those specialty labs being built out that way. Bob, you can go to the next slide. And then we arrive at the lower level, going all the way down. And so if you can imagine on the sort of top of this drawing there, this is the lowest elevation on the site. The site is sloping down. And so the building kind of emerges on the right-hand side, these wings, this wing on that northern side where you can kind of see a 6 and a plaza. That face of the building would actually be 4 stories tall, facing kind of the northwestish kind of direction, north and northwest. And then the gyms are the gyms, and those are there today, and they would be there, stay that way. This classroom building is roughly a story and a half, 2 stories above the height of the gyms as they currently are. And so the scaling isn't too drastic in terms of like the massing that's already there. And then we've, as we said in the last building committee meeting, we tried to angle the classroom wings for better solar orientation, but it also gives the short end of the building exposure towards Arlington Road, which is going to be a better relief for them instead of having a big, giant, long 3-story facade down on that side. On the lower level in the sort of teal green color is all of the cafeteria and food service. That will be for the whole school. That is sized right now to accommodate 2 lunch seatings, so around 550 students per seating in this space. It actually is a kind of good location for that program because you know, every student can get to it, but it's also around these public spaces of gym and everything like that. And if the building ever needs to be used to shelter people during an emergency or something, not a shelter, but to host people for any reason, this can be a really big community asset in the sense that you've got the ability to have food service, you've got large areas to house people, and you've got all the locker room facilities that are needed for any kind of support to a community-wide need. And generally speaking, public events that need receptions afterwards or anything like that can use the cafeteria as well. So that's the lower level. Bob, you can go to the next slide. So the massing is looking like this. Again, this is just an extrusion massing. The existing building has the windows in it because those are existing to remain. We will replace the windows, but we're not adding new openings for the most part in the existing building. The extruded new building doesn't show windows yet, and it's just sort of showing the massing. This is the same image we saw at the last building committee meeting, but we're putting it here again just so people can continue to remember and reflect on that the size and shape of this building as proposed, and know that we're working through all of the other nuances around design and fenestration and exterior facade and all that stuff. So, but the exterior of the building hasn't changed much. Actually, going through all of the meetings, all-day meeting with the staff resulted in very few changes actually to the floor plan. Most of it held up, which is good, and that was good for us to hear and a positive for the district. And so this is sort of the foundation, and we're starting to layer in all of the components related to this for all the systems, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, all the things that go in to support this building. So Eric, Terry, that's all I have. I don't know if we need any pause for questions from the committee or what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it when we get to the working group stuff, but you know, I think if folks have comments or questions about this, you know, I think it really is coming together, and now I see a campus. You know, I don't just see a high school. I see how this is coming together, which I think is super exciting. So if folks have questions, comments, I would, you know, ask you to share them now.
I had a question, maybe it's too soon. If we're putting all this community, like the gyms and the cafeteria where the events are, is the parking still the student lot? Like, I know there's like a handful of spaces by that gym, but I can't remember where the parking is.
Bob, can you go back to the first slide in our deck here with the site plan on it? That one. Okay, so there's the student lot up. I don't think I can mark out, but maybe Bob can track with his mouse. But there's the student lot up on the north
Yep.
edge of the building. There are a few spots just to the west of the gym that are on the lower side. Most of those exist now, but we're kind of reshuffling
Okay.
the deck back there now. But then there's this big lot that is up here that we're adding to the building, which is this number 2 lot. And so total parking is going to increase with this scheme by about 39 spots added to the site. And of course, you can maintain the sort of parking on the perimeter of the road going around and the existing parking lot on the more sort of southeast side where the rock faces are. So
I had a question about the classrooms. I noticed that there were special education programs throughout the levels, but I didn't see any classrooms that were labeled for the DSC, the Developmental Skills Program. So I'm wondering where we're planning on housing those classrooms.
it's a good question. I think might be a nomenclature thing on this, but I'll have to get back to you on exactly where those are, Nicole. We had an exhaustive session with special ed, and we revised the plans based on those notes, and so hopefully they didn't they didn't leave something out, but I think we'll try to find a way to label that so that people know commonly. We might be just referring to it as something else, but I don't know what that translation is off the top of my head, so I'll send a note through the chair.
Okay,
to
great. It's
resolve
not a
that question.
program that we currently have in the high school. We have students that are in the
Okay.
middle school that will be coming up from that program. So it's something that we're looking at expanding in the high school. It's also in our elementary school, so creating a full vertical alignment for the program. Eric, has Nicole, has Christina weighed in on the DSC program and where she'd like to see it?
Yes, and I think they also talked about some adjacencies. So, like Chris said, I forget the classroom label that they were using, but she's been part of these conversations, as has Chrissy McNeil and the high school special ed staff. So we'll identify the classrooms, Megan. I think I'm agreeing with Chris for right now. I think there's just some different nomenclature used, but we'll double check.
I'm fairly certain in those discussions with the teachers last week that we had reserved a space or talked about a space that program would go into. It definitely came up in that working group meeting, Chris. So I don't remember specifically where it was either, but it definitely came up.
Yeah, I just think we got to find the name. So
Yeah.
what I'll do, Megan, is get the actual what our translation was, and then through the chair we'll send that out to the entire committee and just say this came up. Here's the answer. So,
Great, thank you.
mhm.
I had something, and I hesitate to say anything even because I'm sure it got covered. This is the kind of little minutia that I'm sure has been covered a million times. But as you look at the site plan, that overview, when Melissa asked about the parking, and so we're looking at the parking by the gyms, it's existing. It's hard to tell. I can't quite remember. Like there's some green space there on the road off the gym, and that little parking lot seems more enclosed. But that's a time when, let's say, when the football team comes back from an away game, or if you have a track meet and the girls' softball team is leaving, there's often buses that kind of have to stack up there at the same time that kids are getting out of a different practice, at the same time that people are trying to pick their kids up, or the little girl cheerleaders are coming to practice in the gym, but somebody's coming back. That's a real choke point right where that arrow is on the site plan. And so just keep in mind, there's often 1 or 2 buses that are pulled up there to pick up, drop off at the same time that some other activity is getting out or people are dropping off. And it's always been a little bit of a a tight spot and a little bit scary, especially when it's little kids coming in for things at the gym at the same time that the high school kids are getting out of practice. And so just something to think about as I look at it. The plan looks great. That's really nice. It's really cool.
Yeah, Doug, a good point. One thing that we're not going to get into this level of detail, but when you look at the plan that's on front of you, we actually have a dedicated bus lane, and my advice in practice would be to say, if you're a bus, you go to the bus lane, and the kids have to come to you, as opposed to creating a choke point like you're talking about. So that horseshoe-shaped element just below that red dot includes a bus lane that goes to the front of the school.
See that?
So
I don't know
I
where I
think
can see that.
what you're talking about a practical example, and that I think will deal with. But I do like the fact that we have a dedicated bus lane on the campus now.
I do too, but you are, the buses I'm talking about are then unloading
Are the ones that are
5
coming from
gallon
away.
5-gallon jugs of Gatorade and trying to carry that through the halls from the front of the school down the stairs to the gym. Yeah.
Yep.
So
We'll put it on the agenda for
regardless,
the next.
I just wanted to bring it up. I'm sure it can be
Yep.
handled. It's not an issue. It's just something that popped in my head from all the years of doing that.
Well, if you would like to join the site logistics working
Nope.
group, we will
No,
happily
but
send you those invites.
You guys will do a great job. See, that's
We'll
why.
put it
But
on
no,
the
it's a
agenda.
good point. I mean, those are the type of comments that we need from everybody, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in this type of forum or meeting. You can always just send me or Chris a note, like, have you guys thought of this?
Sure.
Because we're not working in a vacuum.
And we can get the Safe Routes folks looked extensively at Fox Hill about like where like we want people to go and where people will actually go. I think Bob and I agonized over like a one guardrail for hours. So I think there's definitely some aspects of we need to change behavior, right? Parents need to pick up in the loop. Most buses need to go in the loop. It's going to be a much shorter access now to the gym. So I think safety wise, I'm sure like if they have to drop literal equipment off, but I think changing behaviors will help too.
Yep.
Okay, Bob, do you see any other questions, or should we move on to the?
There's a few
updates?
online with their hands raised.
Oh.
I don't know if they're just waiting to be called upon. So
I was waiting.
Yeah, go ahead, Martha.
Since Megan brought it up, I just also wanted to mention the programming for 18 to 22-year-olds, making sure when you go back and check that there is a space for life skills kinds of instruction and learning and that kind of thing. So I don't know what the high school calls that program. Sometimes it's called a transition program, but if you're looking at spaces for special education programming, I want to be sure that that space is looked at and planned for. Thank you.
Yep, that's definitely in there. That was discussed.
Yeah, I believe that's on the second floor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Mimi?
Mimi also had her hand up.
Sure. If we could just go back to the previous slide, I just want clarity about something. Can you bring the previous one? Oh,
Which one?
Which previous?
That one right here, what you have.
Okay.
So with the new construction of the part of the building for classrooms that comes out towards Arlington Road, it looks like in some of the renditions, it looks like a wall. In this one, it looks like a connector. There's a courtyard, right? Like an oblong rectangular courtyard. The part of the building facing Arlington Road, it looks like it's just a wall, but like what purpose does that serve? In other words, why isn't it a U? Why is it closed off? It must have a purpose. It's just not clear to me what it is. I can't tell from the drawing what it's meant to house or hold or what purpose it's supposed to serve. Am I making sense?
Yeah, so these floor plans actually show it. They're links from the ends of the wings. So we're trying to create a circulation path so that if you are in, say, class at the end of the right-hand top classroom wing, you don't have to go all the way around the entire
So
building
it's
to get to a
hallways.
class on the other side. Yes, it's a bridge and it will be most likely
Okay.
a lot of glass or exposure. And the courtyard is actually not enclosed. So that's only on the second, third floor up top. And then there's free access to the actual area on the bottom floor.
That's very helpful. And if you explained this before, I apologize. But when I just look at it, I get visually confused. But hearing that, it helps me to better understand what the concept is. So thank you.
Yeah, so Mimi, it's a good question, and folks might get confused by that. So, Bob, if you go to the massing diagram, the last slide of theirs, like I can see the confusion because if you look
That's
on the right
exactly
there,
it.
that
That
looks
was
like
the
a
one.
wall, right? And that's
Yep.
just that's an extrusion of the massing, but that is not a wall. That will be, as Chris said, a glass enclosed bridge. It potentially could be both the second and third floors. I think those guys are working on that. But at the bottom, that is an open courtyard.
Yep.
So,
Now I get it. And I've been
yep,
asked by some other people,
yep.
what is the purpose of that? So with
It's
the
going to show
explanation, it
really
all
large
makes sense.
movies on the
Thank
wall
you.
when project them up there. No,
Yep.
it is a good question. I think some of us get lost in the, oh, well, we know exactly what that is. And if I was somebody that just saw this, I'd be like, well, what's with the wall?
Yep. That's exactly
And
what
so
it is.
it's a good question. Thank you.
Any more questions?
No more
All
hands.
right, go ahead. Yeah.
Great. So Bob, you can go to the next slide, which is really, I think it comes back to me. So, first of all, a lot of you have been in a various meetings over the last couple of weeks, and I want to thank you and the school and staff for participating in all those meetings, and they continue. And so what I try to do here, I don't want to just read things, but from a kitchen food services, Chris mentioned, the two seatings of 550. We have a further meeting scheduled next week. It's the kitchen consultant that we're using is the same one that's being used at Fox Hill. So he's well familiar with the Burlington School District. So I take good comfort in that. Chris mentioned the high school programming. We had an all-day session last Wednesday that I think went really well. I credit to Chris and his team. It's the time for all of the teachers and staff to say, well, where's my classroom? How big is it? Where is it next to? And I think the design held up really well. Yes, there's some things that need to be changed a little bit, but it's well within, the footprint of what's been proposed. So I think that's really good. On facilities assessment and I'll call it sustainability, we are in the throes of putting something together that's very similar to what you saw at Fox Hill. It's a life cycle cost analysis that looks at different mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems and compares their upfront costs versus long-term maintenance costs. And we are going to effectively work with those groups to come up with a proposed recommendation, which will happen at our next SBC meeting in person, which I think is the 12th or something like that of June. So that is kind of very much being worked on by a variety of Chris's consultants. We've had, meetings with the facilities group. We've had meetings with the sustainability group. We're going to be meeting with those folks again before that next meeting. So that's a big focus of ours right now. On the financial front, I mentioned this at our last meeting about the mechanics and the timing. we have meetings planned that I'll be attending with Ways and Means on the 4th. I think their intention is to come up with a recommendation as to how they would like the town to consider this. And then we have a meeting with the select board on the 9th. So by our next SBC meeting, I will be able to relay, what happened in all of those discussions. I see, Martha, you're missing some of the. I don't see some of the bits and bobs, but you should have the presentation maybe elsewhere that you can just open.
I didn't see that. Did you send that out this week?
Comes from Rachel. Yep.
Yeah, it came from Rachel. You should have gotten it
I'll
last
look for it
night.
again.
Yeah. If you want to just hit the next slide, I'll go through all this and then I can take some questions, Bob. That'd be great. So on design, we met with some folks, and I think everyone needs to remember we're in schematic design right now, and so understanding the minutia doesn't happen right now, but looking at the exterior, understanding what folks would like. We actually have to deal with the fact that we're going to have existing buildings to remain. And on the interior, the type of look that we're trying to achieve, I think we're making good progress there. On the community front, we have a community forum next Thursday where effectively what we want to do is to allow Chris the opportunity to just explain the floor plans, just like he's done with you all over several occasions, and to take questions. So it's meant to be an open kind of forum. And then we have subsequently, we have internally anyway, and we'll be putting them on our website, proposed additional community meetings, one in July, one in August, one in September, that also I want to allow for 1 or 2 additional meetings in September based on where we are, but we'll figure that out then. And in the upcoming meetings section, you'll see the dates that we're proposing. On the site logistics piece, we went through a couple different options. What you actually saw is, I think, what we're going to take into schematic design, which has that I don't want to get into the whole parking direction of traffic, because that's what we're going to be recommending at the next meeting for everyone to consider. But I think we've made really good progress on that. And then with sustainability, similar to the conversation on facilities, we're evaluating what our options are and what things are going to cost, and how that works with the OPR and basis of design that we've spoken about previously. So, it's a lot that I've just said in a few minutes, but a lot of progress has been made and continues to be made. And I'm pretty pleased as to where we are right now. And we're continuing to work to meet the schedule of getting a schematic design, getting an estimate, and having that available for you all to consider effectively. So I'll stop there and take some questions. And if there are none, I'm happy to move to the next one. So on CM at risk, so we expect proposals or qualifications, on the 28th. We will issue an RFP shortly thereafter. There is a subcommittee made up of, there's a member of TAPE, myself, or Doran Whittier, as well as Bob, Dr. Conti, and Jeremy. And those folks will then be invited in. They'll have proposals that are due on the 27th of June. We have and Bob, I've put this in here, and I forgot to mention it to you this morning in our call. I would like to be able to give them an opportunity to walk through the building on the 18th, which I think should work. I'm just going to need your help. Okay, I see you shaking your head, so that sounds good. The intention is to interview those firms on the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and effectively bring one on board on the 11th. Now, what I will do, so this meeting is specifically designed as an update. At our next meeting, I'm going to be asking you for approvals to do certain things. But, you know, I'll go into it more, but this train is moving, and I expect pretty good coverage and a fair bit of interest from a host of construction managers, and which is great for us. Can you confirm that? Oh, yes. Mimi, I see your question. Yes, land use meeting on 6/2. I will be there. And I believe Catherine is coming as well. So, yep. And Mimi, we should probably talk about if there's any specific materials. What I would
Yes.
propose to bring is something similar to what's in this presentation. Because what I don't want to do is get ahead of whatever I show to the school building
Absolutely.
committee. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
I can give you a call tomorrow,
Yep.
but we should keep the scope very focused, narrow, and concise. Yep.
I like focus, narrow, and concise.
Me too.
Yeah. That sounds great. So Bob, if we can go to the next slide. So I mentioned, this was on the agenda. I mentioned this before. I'm actually looking forward to meeting with Ways and Means and the Select Board. We have, or they have, our attention. We have each other's attention. So that's a good thing. And I don't have anything to report other than that we're meeting with them. So if we can go to the next slide. Right. So here's our announcement for next Thursday. It will be similar to this, a WebEx, which I'm hopeful is well received. It always depends who you talk to. If folks thinks there's a need to have a physical space, we can do that at the school, and I'm happy to be there. Ultimately, I think it's Chris putting something up on a screen, showing them the design. So, I think everyone kind of weighed in and said, oh, virtual is better. So that's what we're going with. Does anyone disagree with that approach or think we should be doing something different?
I think it's more accessible when everyone can ask questions from home
Yep.
instead of having to go in the building.
Yeah, I agree. So we're looking forward to that. And then
Can I ask?
Sharon has
Yeah.
a question.
Sorry.
Sharon, did you have your hand up? Bob, can you unmute her?
She should be. Sharon, you should be able to unmute yourself.
You just have to click unmute on the bottom left.
Click. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Just for edification, for us, we can barely see the screens. They're microscopic. So I think if we can have, I don't know how you're going to send us out physical information, but I think in person would be better. Maybe you can do
Okay.
both.
And Sharon, good comment. Like I'm happy to do that, and we can, we can get the screen assuming the auditorium's available, to put it up on that. it's just I know between WebEx and the platforms it can be a little challenging, but if I'm happy to support that. So I'll work with Bob to figure out how to do that and give folks, you know, if they want to sit in the auditorium and look at the screen because it's bigger, I get it.
Thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it.
No problem. So that's where we are on
Doug,
that.
did Doug have
And
a
then
question?
if you go to the next slide.
No, I took my hand down. That was
Okay.
my point. I think for some folks who are trying to
Yep.
watch it on a phone, or if they're, you know, not computer savvy, which significant number of our voters that we're worried about may not be, in person might be great for not
Yep.
one option. It didn't have to be that one.
Not a problem. If we just go to the next slide. So I'm not sure if are these drawing signs available on the website in a way that folks can enlarge them. Yes. I mean, any image, Martha, answer to your question is yes. This presentation will actually get posted tomorrow. And then you can, you know, zoom in on anything, provided you know how to do that. So, in terms of other topics, I'm getting outside of my lane, Melissa.
No worries.
I think you take over now.
Great. That was nice and fast. I don't have other topics. Does anyone, Sharon, I think your hand must just still be up, but let me know. Anyone? All right, perfect. Next meetings, I think you definitely
Okay.
covered that.
So if we just go to the next slide, Bob, I just want to show the next meetings. So I have listed all of our meetings basically leading up to town meeting so that they're kind of front and center. I do have that sort of fourth Thursday, just like this one, as a virtual SD update. If those need to be in person, I will certainly ask. I will say that I am pleasantly pleased with the ability to kind of give you guys this type of update more frequently so that the group can hear what's going on, because I think that will make the in-person ones, the typical second Thursday of every month, more productive. So this is our schedule. You will see on the community meetings, I've listed May 29th, July 17th, August 21st, and September 25th. So those are the days that we're proposing to basically have sessions with the public to give them an update on the schematic design. And then, you know, I think there's going to be a need for potentially many meetings in September leading up to town meeting. So, but I did take the comment that we wanted to commit to certain dates, and this is what we intend to do for the next couple of months. So
Mimi has a question.
No,
Oh.
I just have a comment that I think when the reminders for the meetings are sent via email, if it's a virtual SD update only, that in the subject heading, virtual meeting only is flagged. Because up until now,
yes,
we've a meeting
good
in
point.
person, and when the WebEx invitation came, I didn't open it because I planned to come in person. So I actually went to the school committee room this evening to find, I think it was the planning board there, and I had to drive back here to log on. Now I understand that we will begin to be having regular virtual meetings only, but that had not been clear. So I think for others who might quickly just look at something, if it's flagged in the subject heading, this is virtual, that could be helpful. Thank you.
Sounds good.
I will make sure that that doesn't happen again, Sharon. Mimi, apologies that transpired. And with that, folks, I don't think we have anything else.
All right, I'll take a motion. Anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in
Everybody
favor?
have a nice
Just
long
second.
weekend.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.